Welcome, everybody, to Michael Maher Live, the most originally named show on the entire internet. Don't know where I came up with it, but it just appeared to me one day, and so I named my show that. But I am your host, Michael Maher. I am the Chief Idea Officer of Cartology. We are a service agency that works with brands to help them to win on Amazon. If you want to know more about that, reach out to me. I'm not going to talk about that right now. What we are going to talk about is something exciting with my new friend, Sergiu Cazac. He's the founder of Personizely. I'm going to let him explain a little bit about himself and what he does. And if he goes too long, I'm going to cut him off and we're going to go right to the next thing. But welcome, man. It's nice to have you, Sergiu.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Hi, everybody. Really excited to be here. I just want to say that intro was really beautiful, really set the stage.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Sergio. I'm the founder of Personizely, and at Personizely we help e-commerce brands drive more revenue on their websites through experimentation, personalization, and A/B testing. So pretty much helping e-commerce brands win in today's ever-changing world.
Ooh, you're also helping people win. I love it. We were chatting a little bit before we went live, and we're just talking about an experimentation mindset, which it sounds like you are intimately aware of that mindset and that what it takes to be an experimenter. And I feel very pro experimentation, testing, trying new things. And I have a group of guys that I meet with once a month, a bunch of other entrepreneurs. We can bring our relational, our personal, our spiritual lives into one place and talk about those things, because we are humans. We're not just a work person. We've got other things going on. And we were talking about failure. And I just was like, provided my insight. A guy is talking tonight about failure. Shout out to Matthew Dooley. I hope your speech goes well at Unpolished tonight. And I just said, man, the more that I fail, the easier it is for me. Yep. Now I'm not intentionally trying to go out and fail on purpose. I want to succeed, but I just become more okay with that as a part of it. I'm wondering, do you see that in the brands that you work with, that they're initially kind of fearful because what will happen if I fail?
Yep. That's one of the things that we see is the fear of what happens if the experiments that I've tried. And experiments can be on different levels. It can be the price, it can be the website, it can be like the positioning. And the fear is that if they do something wrong, they will kind of lose the business, or they'll kind of go underwater. So and as they kind of install this experimentation mindset into their kind of operating system, it becomes easier and easier to accept that losses happen. But the craziest part is the fact that you can actually learn a lot from a lost experiment. So because it's like, obviously every cloud has a silver lining, but at the same time, if you look at the data, and speaking like from the perspective of our product, if you look at the data, the analytics, and you look at it from different sides, you can actually learn a lot from a lost experiment. I myself also kind of went into this some time ago. I wasn't always like this, and I learned this from a great company, Conversion.com. So they have a lever framework that describes how you kind of set up your experiments and everything. And one of the nicest things was the fact that let's say you try changing some copy on your website, and this experiment is like a big loss. It tells you that people care about this a lot. You just need to change direction. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's like one. It was like a revelation to me. That means that people care about this thing a lot. So work further, just change something else. Like maybe change it in a different direction, but go the same way, go through the same road, and you'll at some point find like a way that works. But the signal that people are caring about this is the most important part here.
Just hearing you say that was a little bit of like an epiphany for me. Like, hey, people care about this thing, which I know what a brand's going to say. I've been working with brands for a decade now. It's all right. Well, we lost revenue. Now what?
Yep.
We lost this money. So helping people to reframe stuff is super, super important. And it's one of the most challenging things that we do with brands. Is there an example would be like, hey, we want to pull ad spend. I'm like, great. What are you wanting to do? Like, what are you wanting to achieve with pulling that ad spend?
Yep.
A lot of times it's just, hey, well, we want to save money. We want to do this. I'm like, let's walk through what is actually going to happen if you do that thing and talk about the consequences. And let's talk about not just the loss, the gain that you're going to get now, but what's the long-term loss and or gain that's going to happen in the
Yep.
end.
Yep.
And walking through that can be helpful, but instead of just being an order taker, we have to say, hey, look, we're here to serve you and help you get to the goal of being number one in your category, being more profitable. But if I just let you make this decision, it's actually going to steamroll over your goal. And so we need to walk and talk through that. So that, like, walking through that framework and mindset is so important to
Yep.
to see. And hearing you say, like, all right, yeah, we lost money, but now we know that people care about this thing. Can we maybe not just put it back to where it was, but do it even better, is what you're saying, right?
Yep, exactly. And I've actually liked the topic that you touched on, and we have the same experience a lot of times with our customers, where they would come and say, "Okay, we want to experiment with this thing. We want to test this," and we're like, "That doesn't make sense, really. Please let me know what you're actually trying to achieve," and then we'll kind of zoom out and then go step by step, and maybe we'll come up with a better hypothesis. And I think having this mindset, like as a business, working with clients, having this mindset that you first want to kind of walk through all the process and kind of understand what the customer like actually wanted in the first place, and not reach out to the lowest hanging fruit and doing something that the way they say right away. As in your example with, let's say, pulling ad spend, you just don't do that. You just zoom out and try to really understand what they mean. But that's obviously a little bit of a different topic. But it really resonated with me when you said that.
All right, so my good friend Luke Dooley, not Matthew Dooley, who is another Dooley. They're not brothers. People think that they're brothers all the time, but they're not. Just fortunate or unfortunate for them. But he left a comment that just said, failure is a muscle that you grow. And that speed to iteration following a failure is an incredible skill that distinguishes resilient and growth-minded leaders. And that's kind of what I wanted to press on with you is, all right, we've had this quote unquote failure. I also think it depends upon how you frame it. Like, we did a test and we lost something. Is that really a failure? It's a failure only, I think, if you say, I'm giving up. Great, you lost, and now you failed because you went out of the race. And life is just hard in general. Let's just be honest. I have a podcast called The Longer Game. First episode for season 4 came out on Friday. I had an amazing guest named Joe Rotundo. He is the founder of Smearcase. They do Froco, or like frozen cottage cheese ice cream, essentially. And the whole focus of the podcast was like, life is hard. Choose your hard. I'm sure you've heard people say that. Choose your hard.
Yep.
Like, being an entrepreneur is hard. Working in a corporation is hard. Choose your hard. Being fit is hard. Being overweight is hard. Choose your hard. Like, those are all, you get it. Don't let your heart choose you. Choose your heart. So life in general is going to be hard, but you've experienced this loss or this failure. How do you actually learn from that? And is there a framework, Sergiu, that you can help people walk through? And then how do you go back and apply that so that you can come back stronger?
Yeah, so I think how this generally works, and I've been also kind of trying to construct this, or maybe deconstruct this inside of my head as I install this mindset into myself. And it's actually, when you think about it, pretty similar to how it is in a lot of other areas of life. And I love the example that life is hard, and the fact that something is not working is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
So if you go to, let's say, choose a sport, I want to get good at it. You don't just go and fail the first day and you stop. You create a process where you want to become good at it.
I mean,
it's very similar.
You could start it and fail it and stop, but you're just not going to learn much from it other than you're
Exactly.
a quitter, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you treat it like as I'll try today and then tomorrow I'll just stop, then that's obviously like a bad thing. It's a failure. But if you think about it like as a full-on process where you have a plan in mind, when you have a goal in mind, where you are ready to treat it not as a project, but as a kind of operating system of, or maybe a process of this specific area of your life, or in this case, of your business, then failures are just part of kind of the process. And the more, as you said, the more they happen, the easier is it for you to first kind of go through them without kind of feeling any pain or whatever, like maybe psychologically, but at the same time, you learn to learn from them. And then they become, it's going to sound cheesy, but they kind of make you stronger. And I think it's working in any area of life. And when I'm trying to deconstruct this in my head to understand, like, how am I viewing this? I'm viewing it like the same way as I would view it like in any other part of life. And what I'm trying to say here is the most important part is enabling experimentation mindset, is treating it as like a process where you are not looking to stop at any point. So it's like a way of living, really. So you just go on and go on and go on and go on and go on. And obviously, it's easier somewhere through the middle when you already see some wins, because obviously, if you only have failures at the beginnings, it's a little bit hard. But I think that when wins start compounding, you don't care that much about a loss. I think it's like take any big sports team in history. They all had like several losses, but it didn't take away from their legacy, because they were always going back and winning and winning and winning again. This is
you know how you walk into the gym for the first time in 5 years and you pick up a 400-pound deadlift, right, without ever doing anything less than that, right? Yeah, that's how it works. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm hearing you talk about this, and I love that you're talking about stacking your wins. So when you stack your wins, one, you get better at failure as you experience more failure, and arguably the ante gets raised over time. So your failures may be bigger because you have to take bigger swings, and I think you need to be okay with that. I also just think like you won't know what will hit unless you try new things. If you always do the same thing over and over again, you're going to continue to see the same result until you start seeing diminishing returns. And then you're going to be like, oh, this thing isn't working anymore. Well, what do I do? Well, if you've been experimenting the whole time, you would have seen, well, maybe people actually cared more about this. I thought it was this thing. But when I experimented, I realized that people didn't care about this, but they actually cared about this other thing. And so now we can lean more in towards that. So I'm like framing what you talked about of the mentality around what people care about. But you get more experience at failure. You get a little more, you get okay with it. I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but you become okay with the fact that failure is an option and it is a part of your framework. So when you're testing something, you know, hey, this could succeed or this could fail. And I'm not now writing on this answer only. I am anticipating that there could be success or failure, and we're going to either double down on success or learn from the failure. So I would love to know a little bit more from your perspective, like how do we create a framework and a process? What's something practical that people can do to create a framework and process of experimentation? Like how do we set up a good experiment? How do we know that it's succeeded? How do we know that it's failed? And how do we double down on the success and learn from the failure?
Yeah, so very eager to share a little bit about that, and just wanted to comment on a keyword, like very important keywords that you've mentioned, and big swings. So I think this is one of the very important parts. So as you kind of start doing this, take bigger and bigger swings, because the bigger swings, the bigger potential wins, and you said that you're gonna have bigger losses, but you're gonna have bigger wins as well. So
Yes.
it's also about that. So in terms of like installing and like thinking about this strategically and how to actually start a good experiment. So how obviously like there's the most basic thing is coming up with a hypothesis. But before that, what I've learned and how I like to structure this is going backwards from what do you think like the audience cares about. So going back to that example where I said that if it's a lost maybe experiment, but you learn that they care a lot about this. So there's several levers that you can basically pull in order to take those things. So I think first of all, before coming to a hypothesis, you need to understand what are those things that I can manipulate in a way so that it has an impact. So when you know those, you know that you pretty much can work with them forever. They're pretty much the potential here is limitless. And when you understand that, experimentation cannot become not a process. You cannot just go and experiment with like 5 things and say, okay, I'm done. This process is ready. When you understand these levers, and most of the time, if I'm just going to give you a few examples, so it's obviously like if you're speaking about a website or like a e-commerce business, it's price points, price sensitivity. Then there is usability. Then there's also kind of discovery. There's also social proof. There's also credibility and authority. So when you think about all of these things and you mix them with how the business changes every day, because you have new products, you have new launches, the website changes, a lot of things change. At the same time, the world is changing. So today you have your website, tomorrow you have it on Amazon, the other day you're at Walmart, the other day your TikTok shop is live and you want to use it. Then there is agentic shopping now with ChatGPT shopping and everything. This is like even more crazy because, and I think experimentation is still valid here because these agents are not going to care about the design, but they're going to care about those really interesting things like credibility, authority, price, maybe how positioning, so how I position against other products. So I think even though it's counterintuitive to what people think experimentation is, with agentic shopping is going to be even more interesting. And I think it's also an interesting topic that we can think of. And going back to kind of installing this mindset, when you understand that there are so many variables and there's so many things that you can experiment, if you multiply this, you're going to have like a set of ideas every day and like throughout the life of your business. If you look at what you were experimenting with 1 year ago, it's going to be totally different because the things that you cared about maybe and what your customers cared about change constantly.
I'm also thinking like, when you start experimenting with drugs, typically you start with marijuana and then you start getting into the harder stuff, right? So you always got to up the ante. It doesn't matter if we're talking about doing drugs, which I don't recommend unless it's something that's prescribed to you, or we're talking about in your business. So what I heard you say, Sergiu, is let's start with the end in mind. Like, what is the outcome that we want to see? And then work backwards from there. So, in this outcome, let's say we want to test price. And maybe in the outcome, we're wanting to increase revenue. How do we then set up the experiment to increase revenue, but test price? And if there is price sensitivity, like what would an actual experiment look like? How do you walk backwards?
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic, and actually, there's various customers actually treat this differently. I think it's the most important part in experimenting with prices when you are thinking about the bottom line, you think about the margins. So most of the time, when you have, so it obviously depends on the market that you serve, but most of the time, obviously, people first of all think about testing this nines at the end, and this is all nice, and it actually kind of have proven to work. But what kind of experiments I love is if you increase the price by 50%, something very brave like that, or maybe you decrease it by 50%. yeah, but it's like whatever your margins allow you, you should test and see, because again, obviously this you have to run the numbers and to make sure that this is not going to kind of kill your business during the experiment. I hope not. Sure. But like you have to think about this. Like if we, let's say, double the price, like as an idea, what is going to be like? How is our business going to look like in a month? How is our business going to look, say, in a half month, or in half a year, if this experiment like wins, if this kind of price test wins?
What could the outcome? What could the positive outcome be? Is what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. And when you is when you actually start to visualize and set up the experiment. So you go on and take a big swing. So say you double the price, and maybe in another variation you half of the price. Obviously, again, if the margins allow you. And then you are trying to visualize and understand like how that actually changes the business, because a lot of times there's a lot of things involved. Obviously, there's the kind of the logistics of it, which is like a big thing, because if you can run the numbers and really understand how that changes the business, it can be very impactful. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. So let's say I say an $100 product, but you could afford to sell it for $50 because like your margins allow you.
Yeah.
And you run an experiment, and it actually kind of generates more profit because more people buy, hence more kind of profit on paper. But when you think about the logistics and can you afford to ship and deliver twice as much inventory? Can you afford to have twice as much inventory? So you have to think about the full picture and not only about the kind of the local wins. You have to kind of have that in mind. So when speaking about setting up an experiment and like testing, let's say price sensitivity, you think like about this kind of from the end. How will it impact the business? How will my business operate in 6 months if this hypothesis is true?
So we're setting up an experiment. We're first saying like, hey, what is our goal that we want to do? We want to increase revenue, or we want to grow the business. Okay, great. And that's probably a general idea, I think, for most people. And then what is my hypothesis? I think if I change my website, conversion rate will improve. If I change the button color, I think I'm going to get more out of carts. In this case, if I decrease price, I think I'm actually going to sell more. And then in that hypothesis, you need to think about what are potential outcomes. We actually end up selling less because people don't value the product as much. Maybe we do see conversion rate increase. That means we're going to have to ship more. Can we afford to have an impact on the amount of items that are, shipping through our direct-to-consumer site or wherever you're testing? But can we afford to actually get more items out? And what does that do to inventory? Are we going to see supply shortages down the road? Are we going to be out of stock of stuff? It's like thinking about those things and then preparing for them. Maybe you're not doubling inventory, but you're just like, hey, we're prepared to produce in case we need to, in case we sell through more. Then once you run the experiment, actually see what happens and then determine, hey, it was a good experiment. It was not a good experiment. But I think part of it too is looking at how you frame, how you get to where you want to go. So a lot of people say, well, I want a bigger margin. I want, a 50% margin. Well, what if you could sell more, generate and get more items in homes at 50% of your price? And so that reduces your margin percentage. However, you sell more and your contribution margin actually increases. Well, I would rather, honestly, what would I rather do? Sell $1 million and worth of revenue and have $200,000, or would I rather sell $300,000 and get 150? I don't know. Is that's a way bigger margin on 300,000, 50% versus 20% in $1 million. but is that what I'm looking for? And maybe what's the end goal too? Like, am I wanting to sell my company? Am I just wanting to grow this thing organically? Like, all those things matter too, and you have to like factor that in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's going back to the original thought that you have to have the end in mind and to understand where you want to, what you actually want to achieve with everything. And this is not like only with like experimentation as in kind of testing, A/B testing, but it's also just trying things. It can go from product to ads to website to support to like the whole process. When you start to think about this, like with this mindset, like it all shifts. You become, for you, like everything becomes an experiment, and you are always kind of eager to start a new one, learn something, and move again and again.
Okay, 2 things before we end here. This has been great. And none of this was scripted, by the way, just to be clear, everybody. We are improv masters. 1, is there anything you should not experiment with?
That's a very good question, and I honestly didn't think about it. I think you should not experiment with your hair.
Okay. Hey, that's a fair response. Because I was going to say, it could be personal. Like, I'm not going to experiment too much in my marriage. I want to continue to be married 18 years this year, and 19 and 20. So, like, if I know something works, maybe I won't experiment on that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the first thought that came to my mind. Yeah.
Okay, don't experiment with your hair. I love it. The last thing I will ask for you is, what is something I love brands to walk away with, or just people to walk away with something practical? What is something that a brand can walk away with right now, and something they could go and do today that will help them to start getting into that experimentation mindset?
Yeah, so I think so I would recommend everyone to read the Levers framework. So it's Levers framework. It's like a very good kind of white paper on having an understanding how experimentation works, how you structure your hypothesis. So I think instead of me maybe sharing something from my own experience, just go and read this. When I read this, I wanted to go and start applying it right away. So I hope if you read it, you're gonna.
Is it by Amos Schwarzfarb? Is that the name of the book? And Trevor Boehm?
So it's the Lever framework by conversion.com.
Oh, the Lever framework. Okay.
Yep.
By conversion.com. Cool. I'm gonna post this in the chat so that people can have access to it and read it. Cool. Okay. So people go and read that, and that's gonna help them get into that mindset, correct?
Yep. I think it's like one of the kind of things that actually enable this mindset in myself. So I think I'm just gonna share this with everyone, and I'm trying to tell this to all of our customers and everyone that go and read this. And this is just one way of thinking about this. There are kind of different schools of thought in this area, but I think this one is a very kind of easy one to understand and easy one to apply.
Cool, love it. I share that with everyone here. It's in the chat.
Thanks,
Sergiu. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights and your knowledge and letting me make jokes about things, and also telling us important things like don't experiment with your hair. I think that's probably something. If I've learned anything today, well, I mean, experimentation mindset. It is don't experiment with your hair. So thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for being here. That's all we got today. You don't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. Until next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.